Alright, so let's take a look at this unit on the right. Let's duplicate it to a mesh, and then I'm going to hit delete to delete the proxy version. We can right click and convert it to an editable poly. And before we do anything, let's just make sure preserve UVs are on, so we keep our textures looking in proportion. Now I'm going to select these two end cabinets as we won't be using them. I'm going to hold Alt to unselect anything behind this cabinet, and we're going to keep that kickboard as well. And let's select these two handles and we can delete them. And over in our front view, let's select these guys, and with snaps on, snap these to the edge of our cabinets. And then we can line this up with the edge of our center island. And now let's bring in an oven. So we can just search for oven in here. And this one looks pretty good, so download it if you haven't downloaded it, and we'll hit import. And let's move this into position. I'm going to turn off snaps just to make it a little bit easier to line this up. And it's a pretty big oven. It almost looks industrial size. So all we can do is scale it down. And as I'm scaling this, notice down here, we're seeing this move. So this is at 100%. And I think we want it at around 80%. So we can just type in 80 there. And you can see it scales in proportion. I'm going to pull that forward so it's in line with the cabinets. And I also want the bottom of it in line with this cabinet on the right. I'm going to press S to snap, and we can snap that to this center line here. And turning off snaps again, I'm just going to line that up. And now some of these high-end kitchens seem to have two ovens, so let's make a second. I'm going to hold shift and drag that across. I'm more of a Deliveroo man myself. So don't need two ovens, but we'll make that an instance. And now for these cabinets, the designer will usually send over the layout, but we don't have that, so we're just going to have to eyeball it today. So I'm going to select verts, and in the front view, I'm going to start moving these to line up with our oven. And the same with this larger cabinet. Let's pull that across. And we can also select the tops of these cabinets. I'm going to snap them to the center line again. And let's also select the top of our cabinets, and we can snap that cabinet tops on the left. And again, let's select these guys. And I'm going to turn off snaps this time and pull these up so they're in line with the oven. And I also want another set of these bigger doors here. So let's select element and just click and drag. Let's make sure we get the handles as well. And I'm going to hold shift. Not going to hold shift. I'm going to hold control and shift. If you're using an older version of Macs, you may be able to use shift. I think this changed quite recently. But that will clone part of the mesh. And we want to clone it to the current element. So we can just hit OK. And that's now part of this mesh. So let's pull that across, and again I'm going to have another piece like this over here, so we'll leave a slight gap, and let's also make these a similar size. I'm going to grab the two handles as well and pull these across into position. And another thing you can do with editable polys, you can hide or unhide selected. So with an element selected, I can hit hide unselected, and now we can only see that. And that can make making selections a little bit easier, just a good thing to know. So let's pull that across. And then you need to go back into element and unhide all, otherwise it can get a bit confusing. You can think you've lost some of your model, but if you can't see it, then you might have hidden it. So I'm going to turn off element, and I'm going to grab this side piece from our left hand cabinet. I'm going to hold control and shift to move this across, and we don't want to clone it to element this time. We actually want to clone it to a new object. So we'll hit OK. And when I select that, you can see it's its own independent piece, although it is keeping the pivot from the old model. So to fix this, we can just go to Hierarchy, Affect Pivot, and Center to Object. And now the pivot's in the middle of the object, and we can line that up with the edge of our cabinets. Just going to move this oven across a little bit as well. And the same on this one. We can always shuffle these around later if there's too much of a shadow gap. So I'm going to grab that again. This time, because it's its own independent element, we can hold Shift and it will clone. Whereas if you were doing this in the Edit Poly and say you just wanted to move one face, and you held Shift, that wouldn't work. You'd need to hold Control and Shift. I think this was updated due to the Smart Extrude, but don't quote me on that. So we can just hold Shift this time and drag this across to put the edge on our right hand side cabinet. And then all we have to do is select our cabinet, and let's attach these two new pieces. And we can just make sure everything's lined up, but that is pretty much the cabinets on the back wall done. Actually, one last thing I forgot was these handles. So if we grab these two, let's just move them up so they're in line with the ones on the right, and then I think we're actually done.